we're going to get started on a lot of the news. Like I said, there's so much happening. Larry David wrote an op-ed, My Dinner with Adolf, talking about Bill Maher's dinner with Adolf. Obviously, Bill Maher has some choice words for Larry David. And a lot of people have actually gotten mad at Larry David in the process, like FARTLOW and other Israel defenders, because they're like, he is not sufficiently pro-Israel, which I think is really funny. I'm gonna be honest with you. There is very little chance that Larry David isn't even like a little bit pro-Israel. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I love Larry. I love Larry David. I think he's amazing. I think he is a incredible comedic mind. But if you think Larry David isn't like pro-Israel to at least a pretty decent degree, come on. He's not anti-Israel. He's not an anti-Zionist, but he is a, one, brilliant room reader, and two, gets annoyed easily. So what that means is he probably fucking hates how annoying the pro-Israeli crowd is. Like, that is my assessment. That's my assessment as someone who is incredibly parasocially invested in Larry David and all of the things that he's done. If I were to parasocially make an assessment on this, like, I would most likely categorize him as someone who is, of course, pro-Israel, but like knows better than to just like constantly chirp about it. All of this happened because Larry David wrote this article about Bill Maher's bitch ass going and having a dinner with Donald Trump, who is a fascist. Okay? So Larry David fucking writes this New York Times op-ed, and then Bill Maher loses his mind. If you want to understand the timeline here, Bill Maher, incredibly annoying guy, as you know, one of the arch villains of this broadcast. Doesn't know who I am, doesn't matter. I just despise this person. He is basically everything that I hate about liberalism wrapped up into one annoying, smug, entitled asshole package with a shit ton of alcohol that is like basically on an IV drip on his fucking arm. That douchebag has always been an anti-Trump douchebag. Bill Maher is the type of person, the prototype of annoying, arrogant, entitled douchebag liberal who thinks he's more intelligent than the average dumb hog, but demonstrates the exact same qualities of the average dumb hog, and basically believes in almost all of the things that the average dumb hog believes, but still has to be a fucking annoying douchebag about it, where he's like, I don't like trans people, but I intellectualize my hatred for trans people. You don't like trans people because you're stupid and uneducated. I hate trans people because I'm educated about the matters. Like, that type of guy. And he hated Donald Trump for his entire fucking career, right? Like, the first 4 years, he said a bunch of annoying shit about it. People would yell at Bill Maher all the fucking time. Now, this time around, he went to Papa, okay? He kissed the ring. He went to the White House. He dropped the pretense. He dropped the whole, like, I'm anti-Trump shit. And he basically said, like, yeah, I've been sued by Trump a bunch of times, but honestly, he's actually pretty smart behind the scenes. He was so nice to me. 100 millionaire who also is a fucking douchebag racist. I wonder why he was so nice to me. And of course, people are annoyed by it. People in Hollywood are annoyed by it. Larry David is one of those people that is annoyed by it. So he wrote this article, Larry David, My Dinner with Adolf, at New York Times, which, for the record, is correct. Is a correct assessment to make. He wrote this article, and Bill Maher got really fucking pissed off at him and did the classic. Again, these guys are all free speech defenders, right? Bill Maher loves free speech, right? Immediately was like, it's actually Holocaust revisionism to compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, and you basically are, disrespectful to the 6 million Jews that were slaughtered by Adolf Hitler. That's what he hit. He hit the this is disrespectful to the victims of the Holocaust line so fast. Bill Maher, a guy with no personal lineage connection to the Holocaust, from what I understand, is tone policing a literal fucking Holocaust survivor descendant. Yeah, Bill Maher didn't even know he was Jewish until later in his life. Like, he fucking grew up Catholic, dude. He is the most Catholic-coded motherfucker out there. Just so you know, he's Mr. Religulous. I hate all religion. I'm an atheist, by the way, and I like to smoke weed. Have I told you I like to smoke weed? Seriously, I always thought he was Jewish. Bro, he has, first of all, That's anti-Semitic. No, if you look at his energy and his vibes, he has the most annoying douchebag Christian pompous know-it-all attitude. There's a very different vibe to I literally did not know that he was Jewish until recently, or at least has like Jewish lineage. And I was shocked when I found out. He just has the most waspy attitude. I don't know how to describe it, even though he's not a wasp. He's a fucking Catholic. But like, he has the waspiest attitude. That's it. That's like, he sounds and behaves exactly like an annoying, entitled, arrogant, Northeastern wasp know-it-all who thinks he knows better than you about everything, even though he is a fucking moron. Also, if he was Jewish, he'd be funnier, okay? Automatically. That's it. That's just the other side of the equation. Like, he's just so unfunny that I think it's fucked up and disrespectful to American Jews to say Bill Maher is an American Jew. You can't make that joke? Well, I just did. Okay, shut up. Larry David says, imagine my surprise when in the spring of 1939, a letter arrived at my house inviting me to dinner at the old chancellery with the world's most reviled man, Adolf Hitler. I'd been a vocal critic of his on the radio from the beginning, pretty much predicting everything he was going to do on the road to dictatorship. No one I knew encouraged me to go. He's Hitler. He's a monster. But eventually I concluded that hate gets us nowhere. I knew I couldn't change his views, but we needed to talk to the other side, even if it has invaded and annexed other countries and committed unspeakable crimes against humanity. 2 weeks later, I found myself on the front of the steps of the old chancellery, and I was led into an opulent living room where a few of the Fuhrer's most vocal supporters had gathered. Himmler, Goering, Leni Riefenstahl, and the Duke of Windsor, formerly King Edward VIII. We talked about some beautiful art on the walls that had been taken from the homes of Jews. But our conversation abruptly ended when we heard loud footsteps coming down the hallway. Everyone stiffened as Hitler entered the room. He was wearing a tan suit with a swastika armband and gave me an enthusiastic greeting that caught me off guard. Frankly, it was a warmer greeting than I normally get from my parents, and it was accompanied by a slap on my back. I found the whole thing quite disarming. I joked that I was surprised to see him in a tan suit because if he wore that out, it would be perceived as un-Fuhrer-like. That amused him to no end, and I realized I'd never seen him laugh before. Suddenly, he seemed so human. Here I was prepared to meet Hitler, the one I'd seen and heard, the public Hitler. But this private Hitler was a completely different animal. And oddly enough, this one seemed more authentic. Like this was a real Hitler. The whole thing had my head spinning. You know what's really funny about this? It is verbatim the Bill Maher monologue. And he just changed out the names of the people and the way that Bill Maher reflected on his meeting with Donald Trump with Adolf Hitler and his cadre of freaks. That's it. This entire op-ed is just literally bar for bar what Bill Maher said about meeting Donald Trump. He said he was starving and led us into the dining room where he gestured me to sit next to him. Goering immediately grabbed a slice of pumpernickel, whereupon Hitler turned to me, gave me an eye roll, and then whispered, "Watch, he'll be done with his entire meal before you've taken 2 bites." That one really got me. Goering, with his mouth full, asked what was so funny, and Hitler said, "I was just telling him about the time my dog had diarrhea in the Reichstag." Goering remembered. How could he forget? He loved that story, especially the part where Hitler shot the dog before he got back into the car. Then a beaming Hitler said, "Hey, if I could kill Jews, gypsies, and homosexuals, I could certainly kill a dog." That certainly got the biggest laugh of the night, and believe me, there were plenty. But it wasn't just a one-way street with the Fuhrer dominating the conversation. He was quite inquisitive and asked me a lot of questions about myself. I told him I had just gone through a brutal breakup with my girlfriend because every time I went someplace without her, she was always insistent that I tell her everything I talked about. I can't stand having to remember every detail of every conversation. Hitler said he could relate. He hated that too. What am I, a secretary? He advised me it was best not to have any more contact with her or else I'd be right back where I started and eventually I'd have to go through the whole thing all over again. I said it must be easy for a dictator to go through a breakup. He said, "You'd be surprised. There are still feelings." There are still feelings. That really resonated with me. We're not that different after all. I thought that if only the world could see this side of him, people might have a completely different opinion. 2 hours later, the dinner was over, and the Fuhrer escorted me to the door. "I am so glad to have met you. I hope I'm no longer the monster you thought I was. I must say, mein Fuhrer, I'm so thankful I came. Although we disagree on many issues, it doesn't mean that we have to hate each other." And with that, I gave him a Nazi salute and walked out into the night. So he basically just wrote this article. It's a satirical op-ed talking about, comparing Bill Maher's experience normalizing and like defending Donald Trump to Bill Maher doing this for Adolf Hitler, right? And that's an understandable comparison to make. It's one that Bill Maher has made time and time again. And especially in his second term, if you guys remember, I said over and over again that he was a proto-fascist, that he wasn't a full-blown fascist, that he did not have the ideological motivation to implement fascist policies, even though there was a lot of white nativist policies that he implemented. But he wasn't like coherent enough in his worldview where he was trying to implement some sort of like administrative control in the same way, right? And I was right. In the first term, he was a proto-fascist. He had the instincts for it. Fine. That's narcissism. That works really well. But this time, it's a little different. Why? Because all of that narcissism and vengeance is allowing him to perfectly align with the interests of the Republican Party in perpetuity that wanted to do unitary executive committee, a unitary executive theory that is now giving Trump, or rather, Trump is a perfect vessel for these sorts of actions. And they have been taking steps to implement this agenda. We are here already. TMR played this clip today from 2018 at 6:27 of Bill saying the exact same thing to Geraldo.
Oh, they're both. You know Trump is my friend. I've known Trump for 40 years. I don't have
I
to.
knew
I
OJ.
don't have to.
He didn't.
So did Trump.
He didn't.
So did Trump. I interviewed Trump about OJ
He didn't remain
during the
my
trial.
friend when I felt he had a certain moral lapse.
Well, in my family, my wife agrees with you. She doesn't like his policies on so many things that I already listed, so she just can't stand the guy. I'm different. I can separate the man who's always been gracious to me, always been nice to my family. You know, we were on Celebrity Apprentice together every day for 6 weeks. I've known him really through every aspect.
Shit. He's running the world now. What does that matter that he was nice to you at Thanksgiving? Geraldo, I'm not trying to be an asshole to you. You're a smart guy. This befuddles me. I looked up to you.
You know, if you don't look up to me because I'm still friends with the President of the United States, then shame on you, not on me.
I don't look up to you because the President of the United States is doing the things that he's doing.
Who liberated the developmentally disabled? I mean, seriously. Who stood shoulder to shoulder with the GIs in all of those places? Yeah,
so he's a hypocrite. We know that already because Bill Maher got access this time around. This is from 7 years ago. Remember, April 6, 2018. Now Bill Maher is doing the Geraldo Rivera take, ironically enough. And it's actually really interesting that he's doing it right now because Trump is even worse than he was the last term. This isn't to say that he was fine the last time around. I think the comparisons of Trump being a fascist or comparisons to Adolf Hitler were perfectly apt even back then. But it is hilarious to me that he has now watched this administration become even more competent as his popularity is cratering due to a multitude of different fucking reasons. And Bill Maher's like, now is my time. Now is my time to shine. I will defend him from the reasonable center. It is insane to me. Yeah, Bill Maher complained about Larry David's satirical op-ed saying that making jokes invoking Hitler is insulting the Jews. There are a million different instances where the human version of fucking Brian Griffin, Bill Maher, actually that's an insult to Brian Griffin, I'm not gonna lie, but Brian Griffin's human version, I guess, but a significantly worse version of Brian Griffin, has made these comparisons, okay? He's made these comparisons and a lot more. And yet here he is crying to Piers Morgan about Larry David making this apt comparison.
People have been in the news that entire time. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Bill Maher. So my first question is, do you like being the story rather than talking about the stories?
You know what?
Yeah, the fascist was nice to me, therefore he's forgiven. The white supremacist was nice to me, a white person, therefore he's forgiven. It's like when people who are pro-Israel will be like, oh, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I went to Israel and it was awesome. It's like, yeah, dude, you defend Israel, especially if you're Jewish or Christian and you're a prominent defender of Israel. If you're Douglas Murray and you're there to do a propaganda tour, yeah, they're not going to... You know, they're not going to treat you poorly. Yeah, no shit. You fucking moron. Of course Trump is nice to you. You're also a very wealthy, rich Hollywood douchebag. Trump fucking loves those guys. Yeah, if you're Jewish but have never stepped foot in Israel, they will literally give you land. Like, what are we talking about? It's like, dude, it's awesome. I don't understand what you're talking about, dude. I fucking grew up here and they want to give me a free house in the West Bank. The fuck do you mean? It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to you. That's kind of the problem. It's awesome to some and really bad for others. you know, others who used to be in the fucking house that is now being offered to you for free.
What comes with the territory, I never try to do that. You know, it's a little more going on in the week, but I've been through it enough that, you know, it's like, it's actually flattering that people really think that I have.
Oh, he's been through so much. Dude, he is such a victim, dude. Society will never live down the shame of harming this beautiful man over and over again. Oh, it's flattering. Everyone's shitting on me for being an annoying little douchebag and also being one of the most prominent annoying liberals who actively hated on Donald Trump, which was valid to do, by the way, only to turn around and be like, well, he extended an open hand to me, so now I'm actually going to tell you he's fine. He's great. Good dude. Real good guy, actually. Real smart guy behind the scenes. That's what he said. That was what was so crazy. The fact that his take was, well, you know, I thought Trump was an idiot and that's why I hated him, but it turns out he just presents himself as an idiot on television. That makes it worse, man. Trump being intelligent behind closed doors or being incredibly stupid behind closed doors doesn't matter. Trump's actions and the implementation of his agenda is what matters. The impact of the president's actions is what matters. And he said he was going to continue criticizing him, but it's like, you know, it rings hollow when you say, well, he was nice to me, and I was shocked by how nice to me he was. We know Donald Trump likes Hollywood. Okay, we know that. We know that's a major motivator, and you are the manifestation of liberal Hollywood. Donald Trump has always had deep resentment towards the liberal elite, not because the liberal elite have destroyed the country, but because the liberal elite always refused to entertain Donald Trump as one of them. That was the major point of contention for Donald Trump. That's why he hates the liberal elite so much.
You know, look, I don't want to get in too much into that, but I think the minute you play the Hitler card,
That's what I think.
You've lost the argument.
Yes.
Oh, the minute you've played the Hitler card, you've lost the argument. I would never. What is the point where you can make a Hitler comparison? Where do we get to make this comparison? What is the reason for learning about Adolf Hitler? What is the reason for learning about the Holocaust? What is the reason for learning about any genocide whatsoever? Why is there even a international organ of justice that prosecutes such things if you can never make this comparison? This is incredibly stupid. It is an incredibly stupid argument to make. The entire purpose of learning about the Holocaust and learning about Adolf Hitler is so you can make this comparison when that comparison is valid. For Donald Trump, especially in the second term, what more do you need to see? This is a country that at least had a crumb of liberalism in terms of protecting First Amendment rights, allowing people to have freedom of speech, free association, free expression, free press. You know, America certainly hasn't been the best on that throughout its entire history, especially when it comes to prosecuting radical leftists, anarchists, trade unionists, and the like, communists in general. But having said that, like in the last 20, 30 years, there is this notion that America is supposed to still maintain some semblance of defending free speech. That's what America is about. There's nothing else that you can point to as far as like the last bastion of liberalism. Free speech and due process. Those are the two good things. It comes down, maybe not even free speech, but like due process especially, comes all the way down from like the Magna Carta tradition, okay? This is like 1,000 fucking years, basically, of trying to get this thing right. Donald Trump taking that away is the most Hitlerian thing he could do. It's insane that more people are not angry about this all the goddamn time, partially because they are so invested, so incredibly invested in managing the unpopularity of the apartheid state doing a live streamed child Holocaust. As I tweeted about last night, I said, actively trying to manage the unfavorability of an apartheid state that's doing a live streamed child Holocaust has collapsed the already limited credibility the West had about defending liberal democratic values. This is what happened in Germany. A pro-Palestine activist was convicted in Berlin for incitement to racial hatred for asking, have we learned nothing from the Holocaust? Last bastion. This is the last battle for preserving any semblance of liberalism and liberal protections in the West. Once all of this falls apart, it's done. It's over. The whole Western world is entirely fascist. The most indefensible version of fascism and the most indestructible version of fascism is upon us. This is why I say this is a scary time to be alive, because there is no anti-fascist counterbalance here. There's no like allied coalition. The fact that you have assholes like Bill Maher also running around and talking about how great Donald Trump is and how nice of a guy he actually was to him is doubly insane. Anyway, here are all the moments where Bill Maher's fucking brought up Hitler.
New rule, the manager at the grocery store has to stop acting like he's some big shit because he's the one who has the key. Admit it, despite appearing frustrated because Janelle on register 3 pressed the wrong button, you love it. You love it, don't you, Rick? Because, ooh, that gives you a chance to make your big entrance and save the day. Because only you have the precious key. You know, like it's the ring from The Hobbit. You're pathetic, Rick. I can't believe we dated.
Bill Maher, Trump a little Hitler adjacent.
Right.
2022, Bill Maher compared Trudeau to Hitler. Justin Trudeau.
Said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them. Now you do sound like Hitler.
That was...
And recently...
Same year, he said J.D. Vance and Elisa Stefanik were talking like Nazis. He cracked the joke saying Melania is Mrs. Hitler. 2016, Bill Maher did a segment comparing Trump's speeches to Hitler's. It is an apt comparison to make. And I'm not going to say it's an apt comparison for Justin Trudeau, which is pretty funny because I think Justin Trudeau was talking about like anti-vaxxers and the constant complaints from anti-vaxxers. But Bill Maher, of course, being perennially on the wrong side of every fucking argument, decided to, I guess, be on the anti-vaxxer side of that one. The only people you can compare to the Nazis is Hamas. Only Hamas is comparable to Adolf Hitler.
And, you know, I know people can say, well, we're just comparing it in this way. Well, it's an argument you kind of lost just to start it. It's just, look, maybe it's not going to...
I mean, hilarious, once again, because he has done this on numerous occasions. God damn, dude. What a fucking loser this guy is. Oh, my God.
completely logically fair, but Hitler has really kind of got to stay in his own place. He is the goat of evil, and we're just going to have to, I think, leave it like that. So, you know, did I... think that was appropriate? No, but people have the right to...
Did you know he was going to do it?
Of course not. And people...
So how did you find out?
You know, my publicist said, this is going on today and you should know it. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, I mean...
Have you had any contact with him since?
No. And that's okay.
I'm the real victim here. I'm the real victim. How dare Larry David compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler? How dare he? I'm Mr. Free Speech, but I loved hanging out with the guy that is finally delivering the death blow to free speech as it stands in America. Remember how intellectually and morally bankrupt all of these fucking supposed free speech defenders are? Remember that. These are all free speech defenders, chatters. Remember that. From Bill Maher to Ben Shapiro to Barry Weiss to all of these right-wing commentators that were supposedly for free speech, every single one of them is an intellectual fraud. Every single one of them has demonstrated their moral depravity. Asmongold, another great example. Every single person that has been like, I love free speech, turns out the only reason why they quote-unquote love free speech was to defend people saying hate speech. That's it. Nothing else. When the moment came, and in broad daylight, the administration decided to take action against people exercising their First Amendment rights to criticize not even the United States of America, but a fucking foreign nation, calling out the atrocities, and all of these dipshits are quiet or championing it. They're either not saying anything about it on purpose because they know how hypocritical it looks, or they're championing it without even caring about how hypocritical it looks.
Okay, look, my whole reason to go to the White House, you know, I said it right at the beginning of the speech I made about it, was, you know, talking to Kid Rock right here, and we were just like, there's got to be a better way than just hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. I mean, maybe, nothing will come of this, but what I know nothing will come from is pretending to ignore the person who has all the power. Democrats have no power. So to think that your method of running out of the room screaming, "I'm not talking to you," maybe my thing has a 1% chance of succeeding. Yours definitely has 0.
It's not like he had that conversation and like convinced Donald Trump to not do some of the things that he's doing. You have to look at what took place here. Bill Maher going and visiting Donald Trump and having this like back and forth and whatever. And in the aftermath of that back and forth, like how he accounted that or recounted that experience. In that process, who won? Okay, who gained more out of that? If Bill Maher seemingly cared about upholding these like liberal values, for example, did he get anything out of that other than, having direct access to Donald Trump? No, he didn't get shit out of it. It's not like he was able to convince Donald Trump to stop, deporting people. You didn't get anything. You got a fucking Trump hat, and Trump got a lot out of it. He got a hater, a liberal, a very loud liberal hater of his who only hated him on the optics anyway. He didn't have real fucking smoke for Donald Trump in the way that like I do, for example. He got that guy to turn around and say nice things about him. So you got duped by a moron is my point. And Bill Maher, in all of his seemingly intellectual superiority complex, in all this time, Bill Maher thought he was intellectually superior to Donald Trump and Trump supporters. And it turns out that fucking dumbass was able to dupe him in the same way that others have duped that dumbass. So Larry David writes this article. He fucking complains about it, even though he has time and time again made this exact same comparison. And then, of course, all of the Israel defenders have been running around chirping since then, saying Larry David hasn't once said anything about the hostages. FARTLOW Fatlow's mad, proper mad at Larry David. Proper fucking mad. I'm so mad. I've shorted my pants. I thought I was FARTLOW. Turns out it was Shartlow. Yeah, I'm using her hate name. I'm pretty sure it started with this fucking TikTok. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, here.
This message is for Larry David. And if you're not Larry David, please keep on scrolling. Larry. The fact that you have not...
This is so funny because this like she is a Curb Your Enthusiasm character. This is SUSIE, exactly. This is just a SUSIE archetype, okay? Larry, you haven't said a single fucking thing about the hostages, Larry. Don't you know? You have to side with your tribe. These people don't care about you, Larry. You fucking asshole. You bald fuck, Larry. You sick fuck. Oh, it's so awesome. What the fuck? How is your SUSIE so good? Because I am a fucking real one. I'm such a real one. I'm such a real fucking Larry David fan. HBO still sends me promotional material for Curb Your Enthusiasm. Even HBO knows I fucking love Larold.
Said a word about the atrocities of October 7th. Not a word about the...
This literally is a Curb bit. I'm losing my mind. This is straightforwardly a Curb bit.
Harassment and violence against Jews all over this country. But this is what you choose to speak out on. Bill Maher's meeting with Trump at the White House, because you have such a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome that it makes you absolutely insane. You can't imagine how Bill Maher, a human, would want to have a conversation with another human that he doesn't agree with. That just rocks your world. But slaughter, rape, and kidnapping of Jews on October 7th? Yeah, no, you're fine with that. Trump is the same as Hitler. Yeah. Totally different behind the scenes, different personality, but just the same. I mean, you should be ashamed of yourself. This is exactly what is wrong with liberal Jews who put politics before existence. Okay? So if you're not Larry David and you watch this, thank you for watching and please share it. But if you are Larry David, I hope you will seriously consider your role in the demise of Jewish civilization.
It's so good. Come on, dude. Look. All I'm going to say is this. Palestinian chicken episode aside, I think Larry David probably is not an anti-Zionist, okay? And I say this as someone who is a firm and committed defender of Larry David, as someone who is a major fan of Larry David, as someone who has talked about how Larry David is incredibly important, like a formative comic in my development. But Larry David also fucking probably is super annoyed. probably is super annoyed with this type of commentary. I feel like the more he has most likely encountered this sort of commentary in his personal life, and I'm being very parasocial when I say this, the less likely it is that he will say anything that is even remotely fucking pro-Israel, because he is a diehard liberal at his heart. Larry David most likely, understands that this is an indefensible position.